Welcome to our deep dive into the world of budget smartphones.
Ooh, sounds fun.
We're looking at the Samsung Galaxy A10,
Okay.
and we're going to figure out if it really was the best entry-level smartphone of 2020, like this review from RechargeMyTopup.com says.
2020, huh? That's like 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to look back on that.
Looking back from 2025.
Right, exactly. So this phone actually came out in March 2019.
Oh, okay.
So even before that review came out.
Yeah.
And they were targeting budget-conscious buyers
Makes sense.
with, impressive features for the price.
Yeah.
So speaking of those features,
Yeah, what did they actually pack into this thing?
what do they pack in? Well, design-wise,
Okay.
glass front, plastic back,
Classic.
and frame. Pretty standard,
Mm-hmm.
but probably help keep the cost down.
Yeah. And also probably pretty durable.
Yeah, I bet that plastic didn't shatter as easily as some of the glass specs we see today.
true.
Also,
Yeah.
this phone was relatively lightweight,
Okay.
only 168 grams, which is pretty light, even for today.
Especially for how big it was.
Yeah, with that 6.2-inch screen.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's a pretty big screen for back then.
Do you think that was a big selling point?
Oh, for sure. Like, a lighter phone is so much more comfortable to hold.
Right,
Especially one-handed.
especially with a big screen.
Yeah, and, they were probably using it to watch videos and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Got
Browse the web.
Makes sense.
So, yeah, I think that definitely would have made a difference back then.
Yeah, and speaking of that screen,
Yeah.
it was 6.2 inches.
Mm-hmm.
Had the Infinity V notch design.
Oh, yeah, I remember those.
I feel like that was everywhere.
Everyone had that notch.
Yeah. And the resolution of 720 by 1520.
Okay.
So how did that compare to other phones at the time?
I mean, it was pretty standard for a budget phone.
Okay.
So, not the sharpest.
Right.
It definitely fine for, just everyday use. Like,
Yeah.
if you're just browsing,
Right.
you're not going to notice the pixels.
Unless you're really looking for them. Okay, so decent design,
Yeah.
good display for a budget phone.
Mm-hmm.
What about performance?
Ooh, yeah, that's the big question.
What was powering this thing?
The Exynos 7884,
Okay.
which is a chipset made by Samsung.
Oh, so they made their own chip.
Yeah, they make a lot of their own chips.
Interesting.
And it was, known for decent performance,
What's
like
up for
browsing,
Basics.
social media, that kind of light gaming.
Gotcha.
But it was not a powerhouse.
It's definitely not.
And the 2 GB of RAM definitely didn't help.
Oh, yeah, the RAM.
I remember having a phone with 2 gigs of RAM around that time, and it was rough.
Really?
Yeah, just trying to keep multiple apps open.
Oh.
Things would slow down.
Oh, no.
Apps would close in the background.
Ugh, I hate when that happens.
It was a struggle.
So not ideal for multitasking.
Definitely not.
All right, well, let's move on to the camera.
Okay, yeah.
So 13 MP rear camera,
Okay.
5 MP front-facing camera.
It's pretty basic.
Were those decent specs?
Yeah. I mean, for 2019, for a budget phone,
Yeah.
that was a pretty standard.
Okay.
Like, you weren't going to get amazing photos,
Yeah,
but, like, good enough.
for everyday use.
Snapshots.
Yeah, just for fun.
Social media.
Exactly.
Okay.
But, if you wanted to be a serious photographer,
Yeah.
this probably wasn't the phone for you.
Not the phone for you. All right, so basic camera.
Yeah.
What about other features
Well,
besides the, the standard stuff?
Besides the basics. Yeah.
Did it have anything interesting?
Actually, yeah.
Okay.
For storage, you got 32 GB internally.
Okay. Not a ton.
Not a ton, even back then.
Right.
No.
That was probably fine.
It had a microSD slot.
Oh, the microSD card.
Yeah. Remember those?
Remember when those were like,
Essential for expanding your storage.
if you wanted to keep all your photos,
Yeah, all your music videos.
you needed that microSD card.
For sure.
What about the battery life?
So it had a 3,400 milliamp battery,
Okay.
which was
Pretty decent for the time. Yeah.
probably get a full day out of it.
Yeah, if you weren't using it too heavily.
Yeah, if you were just, doing the basics.
Exactly.
So decent battery, expandable storage.
Mm.
And it also had a couple features that might seem kind of retro today,
Oh, you mean like the
like the headphone jack
headphone jack?
on the FM radio.
Oh, yeah.
Remember those?
I remember those. Yeah, they were starting to disappear even back then.
Yeah, from like the flagship phones.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that they included them on this phone.
Yeah, it shows you who they were targeting.
Yeah,
People who wanted those features.
makes sense. Okay, so we've got,
Chicks?
a mix of standard and some retro features.
Yeah.
What about software?
So it actually launched with Android 9.0 Pie,
Okay.
which was the latest at the time.
All right.
And you could upgrade it to Android 10.
But I'm guessing no further updates.
Probably not.
Yeah.
That was pretty common back then.
Yeah, you wouldn't get the latest features.
No.
Or the performance improvements.
Mm-hmm.
Or the security updates.
Which was a big deal.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so final thing.
Yeah.
The price.
Oh, the price.
It launched in India for 8,490 rupees,
Okay.
which is about $115.
Wow.
That's pretty affordable.
Even for today.
Even for today, yeah.
That's crazy.
So it seems like this phone was
A pretty good deal.
a really good deal, at least in 2020.
Yeah, but I mean...
But the big question is,
yeah.
knowing how fast technology moves, was it a good choice?
That's what we're going to figure out.
That's what we're going to figure out in part 2.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
All right, so we're back.
Back at it.
Talking about the Galaxy A10.
Yeah, and, thinking about the budget phone landscape.
Oh, yeah, how it's changed.
How it's changed since then.
So much has happened.
Yeah, it's like a completely different world.
It's crazy to think about.
Yeah. So let's compare this A10 to, like, what you can get in a budget phone today.
All right, let's see how it stacks up.
So first off, cameras.
Yeah,
we talked about the A10.
Yeah.
Had the 13MP rear camera and a 5MP front camera.
Right. Pretty basic.
Which was, pretty standard then. But today...
oh, man, it's a completely different game.
What do you see now?
I mean, you wouldn't even find a phone with just a single 13MP camera these days.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like multiple rear cameras is just the norm now.
Okay.
And they've got way more megapixels.
Oh, wow.
And the features?
Yeah, what kind of features?
Oh, man, like night mode.
Okay.
Portrait mode.
Right.
AI scene recognition, all that stuff that used to be just on flagship phones.
Yeah.
Now it's like everywhere.
Wow, so budget phone cameras?
I've come a long way.
Yeah, that's a huge change.
Yeah.
What about performance?
Ooh, yeah.
We talked about the A10's limitations.
Yeah, that Exynos processor.
Right. And only 2 GB of RAM.
Oh, man.
So what's the baseline now for performance?
Well, you wouldn't find anything less than like 4 gigs of RAM now.
Really?
Yeah, and a lot of them have 6 or even 8. Wow.
And the processors are just so much faster.
So everything is just like super smooth.
Yeah. Even just basic stuff feels so much more responsive.
Wow. So no more app closures?
Hopefully not.
No more lag?
Yeah. Yeah, the whole different experience.
That's amazing. What other advancements are there?
Well, display technology has really improved too.
Okay.
The A10 had like an LCD screen, which was fine.
Yeah.
But a lot of budget phones now have AMOLED displays.
AMOLED. Weren't those like super expensive?
Yeah, they used to be, but
now they're in budget phones.
yeah, they're getting more affordable.
What's so good about them?
Well, the colors are so much richer.
Okay.
And you get those really deep blacks.
Oh, right.
And they're more energy efficient too.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so your battery lasts longer.
Nice. Okay, so better cameras, smoother performance, nicer displays.
Yep.
What about software?
Oh, yeah. So remember, the A10 was kind of stuck on Android 10.
Right.
But most phones now, they launch with the latest Android version.
Okay.
And you get at least a couple years of updates.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you get all the new features,
right,
all the security updates.
Which is important, very important.
Okay, so that's a huge improvement.
Right.
Anything else that's changed?
Well, we've also got to mention 5G.
Oh, yeah.
5G. That wasn't even a thing back then.
Right.
But now you can find it even on some budget phones.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So for someone looking to buy a phone today,
yeah,
this A10 wouldn't really be a good choice.
Honestly, no.
Too many better options.
No, way too many.
Yeah, you can get so much more for your money.
Exactly.
So was the A10 actually a good choice back then?
I mean, it really depends.
Right.
Like, what were people using it for? How
Yes.
important was the camera to them?
Right.
Software updates?
Their budget.
Yeah, all that stuff.
So it's hard to say for sure.
Yeah.
But it was definitely,
A contender.
yeah, in the budget market.
Back in its day.
Okay, so what do you think are like the essentials in a budget phone today?
I would say at least 4 GB of RAM. A decent processor so you can actually do stuff.
Yeah, you don't want it to be lagging all the time.
Exactly.
Right.
A good camera that works in like all kinds of lighting.
Oh, yeah, that's
And a
amazing.
battery that lasts all day.
Yeah, you gotta have that.
And then bonus points for like an AMOLED display.
Okay,
And a good software update policy.
so you're not stuck with an old phone.
Exactly.
Makes sense. So even though the A10 might seem kind of outdated now,
Yeah.
it was a reflection of its time.
Oh, for sure.
Like, that was considered good value back then.
Yeah, it was a good phone for 2020.
Yeah, and it shows how fast things change.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy.
Like, what was cutting edge then
Yeah.
is now, like,
Basic.
basic. Yeah. It makes you wonder what's going to happen in the next 5 years.
I know.
Like, what are we going to see?
Foldable budget phones.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Maybe even better cameras?
Even more powerful processor.
Crazy stuff.
Things we haven't even thought of yet.
So, okay, we've established this is not the phone to buy in 2025.
No.
But before we wrap up,
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
Knowing what you know now,
Uh-huh.
would you have bought this phone back in 2020?
That's a tough one.
I know it's a tough question.
I think.
Yeah, it really is a tough question.
Like, would I have known then what I know now?
Right.
It's almost impossible to say.
But let's pretend we had a time machine.
Okay.
Went back to 2020.
Back to 2020.
Needed a budget phone.
All right.
Armed with all this knowledge.
Yeah. What would we do?
What would be like the deciding factors?
I think for me, the biggest thing would be like how long I planned to keep the phone.
Okay.
Like if I was only going to keep it for a year or two,
Yeah.
maybe the A10 would have been fine.
Right.
But if I was thinking like 3-4 years,
Okay.
then yeah, I probably would spend a bit more.
To get those features that are like,
Essential now.
yeah, like more RAM,
Yeah,
better processor,
for sure.
software updates.
Definitely.
Yeah. It's easy to be tempted by a bargain,
Oh yeah, for sure. But sometimes you got to think long term.
especially with tech.
Oh yeah, because it changes so fast.
Yeah. So for you, those long-term benefits,
Yeah, they're important.
they outweigh the initial cost savings.
Yeah, a lot of the time.
But, you know, it depends
It always depends.
on individual needs.
Right, exactly.
So what advice would you give to someone shopping for a budget phone today?
Well, first of all, think about like what you actually use your phone for.
Okay.
Like if you're just calling, texting, a little bit of browsing,
Yeah.
then maybe a really basic phone is fine.
Right.
But if you're like a heavy user,
Yeah.
doing a lot of multitasking, gaming, taking photos and videos,
Right.
then you're going to need something a bit more powerful.
So don't just automatically go for the cheapest option.
No, exactly.
Think about how you actually use it.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to spend a little bit more
Right.
if it means you're going to get a better experience.
And a phone that lasts longer.
Yeah, exactly.
What about software updates?
Oh, those are super important
Yeah.
for secure.
And for getting new features.
Right.
So ideally look for a phone that's going to get at least 2 or 3 years of updates.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Otherwise you're going to be stuck.
And vulnerable to security threats. Exactly. Okay, good advice. So there's a lot to think about.
Yeah. There's a lot to consider.
But don't get overwhelmed.
No. Just do your research.
Yeah.
Read reviews. Compare specs.
Think about your needs.
Yeah. You'll find the right phone.
All right, well, I think we've covered pretty much everything
Yeah, I think so.
about the Galaxy A10
Yeah.
and its place in like the budget phone world.
It's been a fun journey
It has been really interesting.
to see how much things have changed.
Yeah, like what was once impressive
Yeah.
is now just basic.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it really shows you how fast technology moves.
It's amazing.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
yeah.
we want to hear from you.
Yeah. Tell us about your experiences.
Did you ever own a Galaxy A10?
Or maybe another budget phone from back then. What did you love about it? What drove you crazy?
Yeah, let's keep this conversation going.
And if there's another tech topic,
Yeah, something you want us to dive into?
let us know.
We're always looking for new ideas.
Until next time,
Yeah, see you later.
keep exploring
Keep learning.
and keep diving deep.